Alright, so welcome back everybody, and today we did an NFL draft mock video, so now we're going to go over the draft grades for each team, and we are going to start with the Arizona Cardinals. I guess I can start with the grades. So I think Arizona, I'll give them a solid like C+. I like what they did the first couple of rounds, getting Xavier Collins, who a lot of people had as probably the second best linebacker in the class, and then they got Rondale Moore just to give Kyler Murray another weapon, and then I think Marco Wilson dropped a little bit farther than he should, but other than that, their picks really didn't do too much for me, so I give them a solid C+.
You're a hard grader if you're giving them a C when they got Collins and Moore. Collins alone makes it at least minimum a B. And Rondale Moore, with what Kingsbury's going to be able to do with him, I think Wilson at 136 was an absolute steal. I'd argue B plus A minus.
Well, I say that because they didn't really. Rondale Moore's kind of a luxury. They didn't really need him. They could have focused on a bigger need on like corner or something, which they addressed in the next pick. But they could have, they could have addressed a different position rather than getting another wide receiver.
I think their defense was already solid, and it's so young, and then adding Collins in there to play with Simmons and Buda Baker, I think that defense is gonna pull together, and then adding Wilson, I have the sneaking suspicion Kingsbury's gonna use Moore in some just funky ways, and this class is gonna work out very well.
Yeah, getting Wilson and Gowan from UCF, those are good depth corners. They still kind of, I don't know if they've got a number one corner, but they'll have a plethora of guys in the secondary. And then Collins and Simmons at linebackers with Watt and Jones at pass rushers. I'll give them a B minus. I'll give them a B minus.
I guess my really only big critique about them is the fact that they took their last pick was the only lineman they took.
Yeah.
And Kyler, he's built like a toddler. You need to protect him. So I feel like that's the only reason I'd say about a B plus.
Well, they got Rodney Harris and Justin Pugh in free agency.
Yeah.
DJ Humphries at left tackle, I'm not really sold on, so maybe they could have gone for another tackle just to boost up their offensive line. But, you got Hopkins, AJ Green, Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore, Isabella. The wide receivers go on and on. They just picked up James Conner, and Chase Edmonds is still there. So their running backs are going to be good. Their wide receivers are good. Moore is kind of a luxury, like Anthony was saying. But, it's a solid B minus. I'll give him a B minus. It wasn't anything over the top. Collins is going to be a good player.
Yeah, okay, so then next we have the San Francisco 49ers. I actually really like what they did. They traded up 3 firsts for Trey Lance, who, I thought they should have probably gone Justin Fields, but where a report said there was going to be Mac Jones, there was no way that pick was going to be Mac Jones. They kind of reached on Aaron Banks a little bit, but he was I think the top-rated guard in the draft, and there wasn't a lot of guards. Trey Sermon was an excellent pick. Ambry Thomas, I think, went a little high. Yeah, they got some depth in the later rounds, so, it's pretty, it's kind of like a B-plus kind of draft. They did really well.
Now, I'm not incredibly high on Lance, and I think Justin Fields would have made more sense. As Justin Fields, we've seen what Justin Fields, he tore up Clemson, which is unheard of.
Oh, absolutely.
And I find it hard to. In Trey Lance, he played one game this year against who? It was against some
I believe it was Central Arkansas.
Yeah. Okay, that doesn't count. And then the year before that, that was the first year as a starter. And yeah, he was really dynamite. The man's only played one game in the past 12 months. I don't get it. I like to pick a Sermon at 88. I think, especially because he didn't have a whole lot of mileage on him last year. He was ramping up his carries towards the end of the year. I also agree that Thomas was kind of a reach. And because they took a Western guy, so that's going to knock down their grade anyway. I don't really get the last running back they took at 194. They got so many bodies out there they got Hasty, or was it Hasty or Hasty, the guy they drafted last year or signed last year. I give it maybe a B minus, and that's generous.
Well, with the Thomas pick, and we're not talking about Anthony, is Michigan plays mostly, they were just putting their guys on islands for most of the year. San Francisco, you'll probably play a little bit more zone, and he probably won't be the 1 or 2 either. If they felt like he was one of their top corners, they also got the kid from Oregon, so those guys will probably duke out for the 3rd or 4th cornerback slot. But the big one is Trey Lance. I think that Kyle Shanahan realized that the reason why he lost the game wasn't because of Grapple, but it was more because he didn't have a guy like Mahomes, and like Trey Lance is, Mahomes like with his physical attributes. So I think he just kind of wanted a guy like Mahomes. So I mean, their whole draft is going to be based on how Trey Lance does, not how Thomas does or these offensive linemen. I mean, it's going to be about Trey Lance. So
Yeah,
I'll give them.
Because if Trey Lance fails and they gave up all those picks, this is going to go from a B minus grade to an F real quick.
Yep.
Oh yeah. It can be an A or it can be an F.
And I think it definitely would have been an A draft had they taken Justin Fields at 3 instead of Trey Lance. But I guess we'll just have to see how it pans out. This could go south really quickly.
If they took Fields at 3, nobody would have blamed them. Nobody would have questioned giving up all those picks for it. And it would have just made sense. And nobody would have looked down on John or on Lynch and Shanahan if they would have wanted Fields at 3. It wouldn't. This one, if they take it with Lance at 3, if it backfires, it's going to look really bad on them.
Yep, and when the reports were coming out where it's between Jones and Lance, I'm like, it's just a smoke screen. There's no way it's not Fields. It's like Fields is just that perfect 49er kind of player. And then they went with Trey Lance. But when everybody was like, yeah, it's Mac Jones, there was no way those dudes gave up 3 first-round picks for Mac Jones. I'm sorry, it just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, this is a solid B draft. But we'll see how Lance does. He probably happen this year until Garoppolo gets hurt. So
Garoppolo will try and put his cleats on and sprain his ankle or something, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right,
so next we have the Rams, and honestly, I have no idea what they were thinking. Their biggest need was on the offensive line. You just got a new quarterback in Matthew Stafford. You would think the number one goal would be to protect him, but they didn't have a first-round pick because of the Jalen Ramsey trade. So their first pick came in the second round, where they took Louisville wide receiver Tutu Atwell. The dude is like 5'5", 130 pounds. That didn't make any sense because you already had Cooper Kupp, you have Robert Woods, and you drafted Van Jefferson last year. They finally went linebacker and defensive tackle in the next couple of picks, which was, a little need for them. That Bobby Brown dude is huge, so that, that'll help plug up the middle for Aaron Donald. They took a Central Arkansas corner, which about the only highlight of his college career is he picked off Trey Lance for his only college interception. And then, in the 7th round, they took a bunch of white injured-prone dudes. So I would give it I don't know, D+, C-. I really didn't like their draft at all.
Yeah, I don't get. You drafted 3 receivers, a running back. Like, you got enough weapons. The weapons is not the problem there. You got a 95-year-old left tackle, and you didn't take any offensive linemen.
And you lost Austin Blythe, whatever it is, in the offseason to the Chiefs. And then, your left tackle is 39 years old this year. You didn't think to address the 2 biggest needs?
I get it, because McVay is a wizard, and he's going to use Atwell in the right situations, and but he's not going to be a number 1. He's going to be a gadget guy, a trick guy, maybe some punt return, kick returns, and then Skoranek, he's not. I mean, I don't get it. I give it a D+. I cannot justify them not taking any linemen. So I got to give it a D+.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a C-, not just because they didn't go offensive line. I mean, the Rams have kind of plugged in a lot of late-round picks and undrafted guys who worried about their offensive line. I think they'll figure it out. It might not have to be big-name guys, but they're just a good scheme offensively. But it was just the guys they picked didn't really do anything for me. Like Anthony said, a lot of the guys at the end were injury-prone or had injury history. They got 3 wide receivers, and I really didn't think wide receiver was a need at all.
As far as I know, that Jacob Harris dude, they're moving him to tight end.
Well,
which doesn't really change anything, but yeah.
And I get it because Kupp and Woods have both had injury problems, and I get it. And I almost laughed because Stafford's used to running for his life, so I guess they just said, whatever, we'll just let him continue to run for his life.
The defensive guys, Bobby Brown's probably their 3rd defensive tackle.
No, because they lost, what's-his-face to the Lions. So they could probably...
Brockers.
They lost Brockers to the Lions, so you could just plug him right in and, help Aaron Donald out. The dude is huge, so you can plug him into the middle and help Aaron Donald out a little bit.
He's going to back up Joseph Day, that they have that nose tackle right now. Yeah, he's going to be a nose tackle. I mean, the guys they got on defense, I don't really know if they're going to they're going to start. There are a lot of backups. There's not really. So, I mean, it's a C- draft. That's it.
Yeah, Rochelle might be the only guy to start. He'll probably start at like a slot corner type position, but that's about it. And then we end the NFC West with the Seahawks, who had a whopping 3 picks. They had a 2nd rounder, a 4th rounder, and a 6th rounder. They went Western Michigan's Dwayne Eskridge, Oklahoma corner Trey Brown, and then they went Florida offensive tackle Stone Forsty. I don't know how to pronounce his name. But yeah, Forsythe. They had a whopping 3 picks. I really like Dwayne Eskridge pick, but other than that, they're just kind of typical Seahawk guys that they're gonna plug in and play. I give it a C just because they had 3 picks. You can't really grade it too much, but the Eskridge pick kind of increases that a lot. I wish they kind of would have went O-line earlier to protect Russell Wilson, but they're so used to that man running for his life, like you said with Stafford, that they're going to just kind of let him continue to do that.
I kind of agree. When you have 3 picks, it's kind of hard to give him a very high grade. But as somebody who has, for a couple of years now, watched Dwayne Eskridge do some dirty things, and give him a quarterback like Russell Wilson, Eskridge is going to do some dirty things, and they're going to they're going to double cover Metcalf, and they still got Lockett. That Eskridge pick alone is going to be solid. And I mean, Trey Brown from Forsythe, I mean, I get, you acknowledge the offensive line problem, but like at 208, it's hard to give them any higher than a C or a C plus with 3 picks, because I give them a C plus just because I know what Eskridge can do.
Yeah, Eskridge is like a wide receiver version of Darren Sproles. He can just pop any play and take it.
And lining up alongside freaking DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, yeah, he's going to do very well.
Yeah. He'll be open because of the Tyler Lockett DK. It's a solid C. They're still going to be probably the 3rd best team in the division, and maybe squeak into the playoff just because of Russell. So
we are going to go on to the NFC South, and we are going to start with the Atlanta Falcons. Getting Kyle Pitts at 4 was the absolute correct decision. I don't think Matt Ryan and the offense is the problem. Maybe they could have traded down and addressed the defense a little bit, but pretty much them taking Kyle Pitts is saying, yeah, we're still competing, and we're still ready to try and get another Super Bowl appearance. Richie Grant is kind of an underrated signing there in the 2nd round, as well as Jalen Mayfield, the lineman out of Michigan. He went kind of later than I expected. And then, yeah, I really like those first couple of picks, and then, through the rest of the draft, they really sat down and addressed the defense, which they really needed to. The Arizona State wide receiver Frank Darby, I mean, I guess it's just another weapon for Matt Ryan. I don't really know much about him, but overall, I would say it's about a B plus draft. Because their first couple of picks I really enjoyed, and I think it'll help. They're probably all 3 of them are probably day 1 starters. Mayfield might not start right away, but I think maybe midway through the season he will. So they did a lot of good things about dressing some starters right off the bat.
I also am a really big fan of this one. I'm going to go with an A minus, because I think Pitts he's going to be within 2 years. He's going to be right up there at the top of tight ends. Yeah, Grant. I mean, he's a plug in. He's going to be starter. Yeah, and like you said, I think Mayfield will be a starter probably, if not day 1, it'll be at some point this year. The Stanford center. I mean, Stanford lineman. There's no question there. You know what you're getting. And then Darby. Like I don't know a whole lot about him either, but I know he's fast from what I understand. When you've got Julio, Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, and then you can just send Darby out if Darby just runs streaks. I mean, this class I can almost guarantee is going to work out.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. A minus for sure. Pitts is. I mean, everyone was saying there's 2 guys that are going to be for sure. It's Trevor Lawrence and Pitts. So I mean, they got the for sure guy there. Richie Grant's going to take over at safety. I believe Keanu Neal went to Dallas.
I believe so, yeah.
That was a good replacement pick. Jalen Mayfield and the kid from Stanford. There's 2 on offensive line that are going to be part of your future offensive line, if not now. They got the cornerback, which their secondary was probably the worst in the league, one of the worst in leagues last year. And then I don't like the kid from Notre Dame a lot. I have no idea how to pronounce his name, but he was a team captain. He's a big-time effort guy, and they just need guys that are going to go out there and compete on defense to stop the bleeding.
Yep, and then we are going to move on to New Orleans, and let me just say, I have no idea what they were doing there. In the first round, they reached on the Houston edge rusher Peyton Turner. Your biggest need was corner, and there was reports that you could possibly trade up into top 10 to go get a guy like J.C. Horn or Patrick Surtain. And they didn't. They stayed back, and then they reached the second round. Pete Werner, Ohio State linebacker, he'll be good. They finally addressed the corner position and Stanford corner Paulson Adebo, and I think that's actually a really good pick. But I think they just needed to address corner earlier. Ian Book is the career backup in the NFL, and then that's their sixth. They got offensive tackle and wide receiver. They didn't really need a wide receiver, so a lot of these 7th round picks are just kind of speed. We'll throw them out there and see what happens kind of guys. I don't see this class being fantastic. They were doing better in the later rounds than they did first round, so it's like a B- type class. Just because I kind of like the Ohio State linebacker and the Stanford corner, I think they just needed to address some of those needs earlier in the draft.
Yeah, I think Warner and Adebo really saved this from being a D because in Turner it was a big reach. Book is going to be a Chase Daniel, AJ McCarron. He's going to make a ton of money, not doing a whole lot of anything.
And if you need like 3 or 4 wins in the middle of the season because your quarterback goes down, he'll be that guy that you're like, okay, I feel comfortable enough to win a couple of games.
Was he a 2 or 3 year starter?
I believe he was a
3-year
starter at Notre Dame, I believe.
Yeah, that's what So I mean, it makes sense. He's going to stick around, probably have a decent career. Because of the fact that I like the Warner and Adebo pick, I'd give it a C+. But the other ones really weigh it down, in my opinion.
Agree with that.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. A couple of reasons. One, I feel like they could have gone with the linebacker or a cornerback first pick because there were some better options there. They probably should have traded up and got a corner. If they would have traded up and maybe get Caleb Fairley or Newsome. I mean, Surtain went pretty early, but if they would have gone up and got one of those guys, that would have made a lot more sense. Yeah, the 2 defensive guys there at the end, but I just feel like, with the 7th round wide receiver pick, they really need a wide receiver to help Michael Thomas out. And then, the cornerback was a 3rd round pick. I thought that was probably their biggest need. I'll go with a C+ here, but Warner and Adebo will probably be the highlights of this draft. We'll see how Peyton Turner does.
With the rumblings of them trading up, I get why they didn't. They're broke. They can't afford to be giving up picks.
Yes,
they needed to maximize as many picks as possible.
Yeah.
But, come on. Turner to 28,
Yeah, there's rumblings of trading up, and I get why you don't, but then you reach, you could have just traded. If you wanted Peyton Turner that bad, you could have traded back into the early second parts of the second round.
Exactly. And if for a team that needs bodies, you could have traded back.
You could have traded back.
Gotten a pick or 2.
Yeah, to a team that needed a first-round pick, or had a guy they liked in the first round, and then, you could have traded back. We're going to move on to the Super Bowl champion, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It must be nice to not really need anything and just have a bunch of draft picks that are nothing but luxury, because I feel like this draft, that's a lot of what they have. They just have a lot of just development guys. They took Joe Tyron in the first, who I guess went a little higher than expected. They got Kyle Trask to learn behind, Tom Brady. They got some more offensive linemen. They got their 4th round pick, the North Texas wide receiver, Jalen Darden. He's literally a Tom Brady perfect match. The dude is I think 5'11", 180 pounds. He's a perfect slot guy for Brady. I can't really say if this draft is good or not. It's just kind of an average draft because they didn't really need anything, and so they just kind of got a bunch of luxury picks. So it's just kind of right there in the middle.
It's a typical Super Bowl champion draft, and especially in the Buccaneers case when I believe they're returning all 22 starters.
Yes.
You don't really need anything. And taking Trask, you're taking the underdog kind of guy. Now, I'm not, by no means am I saying he's going to be like Tom Brady, but Kyle Trask was a nobody coming out of high school. He was a backup, and then he got on the Florida roster, got stuck behind Felipe Franks, and now look, Kyle Trask went 64. Where'd Felipe Franks go? Not 64th. It's hard to grade something when it's just a bunch of luxury picks. None of them are sexy. But I'd give it a solid B just because nothing really jumps off the paper. But I think it's just some depth.
Completely agree with you guys. Just depth picks right here. I'd say the only thing they probably could have got was another defensive tackle, just because Sue was getting old and Vita Vea was hurt for most of last year. But Joe Tyron's going to be a good pick. Trask is going to learn. Another offensive lineman, another wide receiver. Sound like B- draft. A bunch of guys are going to be learning, and if they blow some teams out, they'll get in.
And so next we move on to the Carolina Panthers, and I actually really, really like their draft. It's probably the 2nd or 3rd best draft probably of everybody. Getting J.C. Horn at 8 was the correct pick. Their secondary was bad. They needed it, and honestly, I thought J.C. Horn, Panthers agreed, was the best corner in this draft. Getting Terrence Marshall all the way down at 59 was a steal. Getting Chuba Hubbard in the 4th round is a steal. I thought he could have been, I thought he could have snuck into the 3rd round there. And then getting South Carolina wide receiver Shee Smith later in the draft. Again, that's another guy I thought that would go a little bit earlier. They drafted a long snapper just to draft a long snapper. And then they reached a little bit on the BYU offensive tackle, but overall I think it's an A grade or an A graded draft just because I absolutely love pretty much everything that they did.
Yeah, this is like I think you said, this is one of the better drafts. I think Horn being, he's an NFL player's son. He's going to be a stud. Marshall at 59 was one of the steals of the draft just because he was so overshadowed by all the big name receivers. And the fact that he slipped to 59 is an absolute steal. Getting Tremble, and that's going to give Sam Darnold a little security blanket. Chuba, he's got to be hungry because if he wouldn't have come back this past year, he would have gone a lot higher.
Probably would have been a 1st round pick had he not come back.
He's got to be hungry to prove himself, and I think he's gonna be up there, probably top 5 steals of the draft. And I think Smith at 204, the receiver, I think that'll work out. He's got his teammate on the team in Horn. I think that'll be a solid one. You got that Iowa D tackle right there in the middle. Big old Iowa boys. That generally works out. I give this a solid A. This is one of the better classes by far.
Yeah, same here. I'm a Panthers fan, so it was nice to see this draft happen. J.C. Horn, top corner in the draft, loudmouth guy, tough, always gives it all. He's going to make some big plays, so happy about that. I have no idea what the NFL was doing in allowing Terrence Marshall that far down. He's a beast. Just LSU is wide receiver university, so I was really happy they got him. Brady Christian, another offensive lineman, but Tommy Tremble is the tight end that I wanted them to get. Ian Thomas hasn't really panned out that much, but Tommy Tremble is smaller. He's just an absolute beast. Go look out his tape. He just runs over people.
Notre Dame tight ends they're just about as close to a guarantee.
And then Chuba, him and McCaffrey. Oh, that's
going to be a very nice pairing because they can bring Hubbard along, so they don't have to start him from day one with McCaffrey in there. But a luxury pick pretty much.
The other thing is they were trading back a lot, getting other picks. They were picking up picks from next year, so yeah, this is an A draft.
Alright, so now that the NFC South is done, we're going to move on to the NFC North, and I personally think the NFC North, 3 out of the 4 teams had some of the better drafts. We're going to start with the Bears. They finally did it. They moved up, and they got the correct quarterback to trade up for. They got Justin Fields at 11. They then traded up again to take one of the top tackles remaining in the 2nd round, and Tevin Jenkins. They got Larry Brown, who could be a starter one day. Khalil Herbert is very underrated. Daz Newsome lasting that long is criminal. And then, the rest of the other 2 picks are just kind of luxury picks. I love what the Bears did. It's a solid A- to an A, just because what they did was just absolutely fantastic, getting guys much later than they should have, and they killed it.
As I was watching the draft and I saw the Bears trade up, and I was like, oh, God.
It's going to be Mac Jones, isn't it?
And I was like, I was praying and hoping and like, come on, please take Mac Jones, do it again. And no, they didn't. They took Fields, and reports were out there that the Vikings were looking at him too. Yep. And Fields, at 11, it's just, it's going to be pain. And Jenkins at 39, they picked him, and then they just cut their left tackle yesterday. So Jenkins is going to probably be the starting left tackle. As for Herbert, I think that's a solid one. And with taking 2 offensive linemen, it's good to try and protect your investment, unlike some other teams have done. Cough, the Bengals. With Justin Fields at 11, that puts this right up there at about an A. It was criminal to be able to get him at 11.
Yeah, I'm surprised the Broncos, which we'll talk about later, passed up on him at 9. Yeah, the Bears finally make the correct decision with Justin Fields.
This is an A+ draft. They filed Justin Fields with 2 offensive linemen and a running back wide receiver combo right there. I still think the Lions should have taken him. I know they got the best lineman in the draft. I just don't think Jared Goff's the guy.
We'll talk about it in a minute coming up here.
But Justin Fields is, I love this kid. I love that Clemson game where the following year he lost and comes back and he's having a great game and he gets hurt and he comes back in to play later and throws a touchdown. I love the kid, and I like the two offensive line. Even if you you miss on the draft with the offensive line, I mean, at least you're addressing it. You realize it, and they're trying to help Justin Fields. So it looks like Pace is finally coming to his senses.
Yeah, and now we're going to move on to the Detroit Lions. Look, I love what the Lions did. It's the first time in a long time that you can actually feel good about a Lions draft if you're a Lions fan. I would say it's not an A only because they doubled up on defensive tackle and they really didn't need to, so I'm going to give it a B+. Getting Penei Sewell at the 7th pick is a steal. Any other draft that isn't quarterback heavy, he's probably a top 3, if not the top pick in the draft. And then they get the second best defensive tackle in Levi. Whatever. This Lions draft is the freaking the alphabet squad because they got a whole bunch of dudes on the team that you cannot announce. Yeah, like I said, doubling up on defensive tackle wasn't really necessary, especially because you got Michael Brockers, you have Deshaun Hand, and then you drafted 2 more. I think when they took the North Carolina State Allen McNeil, I seen the Eagles draft him, was very upset about that. I think the Eagles wanted him, so the Lions took him from him. Getting Amon-Ra St. Brown in the 4th round, I don't know how that man was still available then, but that is criminal steal. Derek Barnes is a big physical linebacker. They got a lot of big physical guys. And then getting Jameer Jefferson, the dude was supposed to be a 4th or 5th round guy. They got him with the 3rd to last pick in the draft. So the Lions did very well. Maybe this is the draft. It's not a pretty draft class. It's not a sexy draft class, but it's one of those draft classes where you get the guys and the transfers and you build from that. They really want to, this new organization of GM and coach, they want to build from the inside out, which is the correct way, because I know a lot of people were mad the Lions didn't get a guy like Justin Fields or didn't get a wide receiver in the 1st round. And I get it. If Sewell wasn't there, you could pick Fields and not be upset. But because Sewell was there, it had to be the pick. Lions fans were kind of upset about them addressing wide receiver in the 4th, but the guy they got, you can't complain about that. And so it's a B+ to A- draft for me. The Lions just killed it. It's exciting to be a Lions fan for one.
Yeah, I'm about in that range of B+. Sewell, I mean, he's going to be and if you rewind 6 months, he was going to be top 3 behind Lawrence. Sewell, I see him. He's going to be a Quentin Nelson kind of just superior talent. Mm-hmm. On the offensive line. With Levi, the D tackle out of Washington, he's a kneecap guy. He's taking kneecaps. Yeah. He is the number 1 candidate to be the first one to take a kneecap this year. Yeah. And I think that the only reason I don't give it higher than a B+ is the McNeil. I don't really get it back to back. I mean, I get it, but I don't. Yep. St. Brown, I mean, that's going to be, I think that's a steal at 112. Barnes, that's another kneecap guy. And then with the corner out of Syracuse, whose brother is in the NFL too, he's very athletic. They're going to try and, pair that with the rough, hardy guys. You got a mix of athleticism, a mix of kneecap guys. Yeah. It's going to work.
And he's 6'3". He's 6'3" as well, so you could play him at corner or safety. He's another one of those just physical guys. They drafted really, really physical this year. Just a lot of physical kneecap guys.
257. I guess maybe that signals that to Kerryon Johnson that his time is severely numbered, because I don't see them keeping Swift, Jamal Williams. I mean, they I don't see Kerryon. I question it, because they're gonna, in a run team, they're gonna keep a fullback, because this is gonna be a run team. I don't see Kerryon stand.
Yeah, they're telling Kerryon to carry on.
And pretty much,
he's gone
this preseason is going to tell a lot about Kerryon Johnson, because they also got an undrafted free agent in Raheem Boyd, who a lot of people know from last Chance U. And so, signaling that plus the Jameer Jefferson, it's kind of like, all right, Kerryon Johnson, either show up or shut up and get out of here.
Yeah, it's a B+ only because the back-to-back D tackles.
B+ as well. I like just about I think they hit on every guy here. But the biggest thing is, I think the Lions, for once, just said, we're going to look at our board, and whoever's the top guy when it's our pick, we're picking. We don't care what the heck's happening. We're just going to pick our top guy, and that's it. We're going to move on. And they just did their thing. They focused on the guys that they wanted. And, I mean, if they felt like they needed to get 2 defensive tackles, whatever, I mean, just they beefed up their team. Their team's gonna suck, but it's gonna be physical. So
And yeah, if they drafted like that a long time ago, they might have won a playoff game by now. But because they finally are, it gives Lions fans some actual hope that's not false hope this time. And I think they're building it the correct way, and we just got to wait for the results to kick in.
And I thought the thing that was really interesting is when Holmes acknowledged when they took St. Brown that he felt the pressure from fans to take a receiver, and during the press conference he acknowledged it. I think it's a sign of transparency and a sign of change, hopefully.
Yeah, he's basically because like I said, they want a receiver earlier. He's basically saying, "This is my team, not the fans. Let me do my job." Kind of thing, where he's like, I don't care if you like this pick or not, this is who we're taking. Next we got the Green Bay Packers, and oh boy, we have a lot to say about the Packers. So before the draft comes out, your star quarterback, arguably the best quarterback in the NFL right now, comes out and says, I'm not happy here, help me out. Not only do you not help him out until the third round, you reach on a corner that could have easily been taken in the mid-second round. There were better corners available at the time. And Georgia cornerback Eric Stokes, I don't know why they took him in the first round. There was plenty of receivers still available. Like, could you imagine a Rondell Moore before he went to Arizona in an offense with Aaron Rodgers? Oh my God, but Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams?
There were so many guys available at 29 that would have been stupendous weapons for Rodgers.
Yeah, so anyways, your star quarterback comes out, he complains, he wants out, he wants help, so you take a corner. And yes, I get it, Kevin King got burnt through the playoffs. Pretty much every play, Kevin King was on the ground, and the receiver was behind him. But you could have addressed that later on. The second round, yeah, exactly. Second round, you took a corner, you helped him out there. You finally get a receiver. All right, yeah. So, anyways, then you go center, which Aaron Rodgers can't complain too much about getting some protection for himself. And then they finally go receiver, Amari Rodgers, which is kind of funny that they take a guy named Amari Rodgers when your star A Rodgers is complaining. You go and draft another one. I think that's kind of hilarious. And then they go another offensive guard out of Ole Miss in the fourth. They go defensive tackle, and they go a lot of guys that just are kind of I really like the Kylan Hill pick. I don't know how he lasted till the 7th round. A lot of running backs kind of fell just because, the wide receiver and running back classes were so deep that a lot of guys just ended up falling under the radar. This is nothing special from the Packers. It's just kind of a C draft. Nothing that blows you away, and they didn't really do anything to help Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I think you gotta give it a C just because of the fact Aaron Rodgers made his wants clear. And the best teams around, they listen to their quarterbacks and they give them everything they can give them. What the Buccaneers, they gave Tom Brady anything they could possibly find.
Yeah, Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, the list goes on and on.
And the Packers, what did they do? Sitting there at 29, they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Aaron. We didn't hear you. Let's reach on a corner." And I literally, and I hate the Packers, but I gasped when I saw they took Stokes at 29. I'm like, how careless could you be?
I'm pretty sure my jaw dropped to the floor. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Aaron Rodgers is probably burning all of his Green Bay stuff that he owns, and he's like, dude, I want out now.
Myers, that's a solid one. You got to replace Lindsey. I like that pick. And Amari Rodgers, that's a good one too. And Wisconsin lineman, they got him late. I mean, Wisconsin lineman, that's always good. And he's going to get to stay in Wisconsin. And then Kylan Hill, they've had good, the Packers have been solid with taking those late round running backs. And with losing Jamal Williams, they got to find somebody just, to be aside Aaron Jones. But it's hard to give it any higher than a C because of the fact that they disregarded what Rodgers wanted.
Yeah, this is honestly a C minus. I mean, Rodgers just ruins the day for them. For all Packers fans, if they're not going to trade him, he might even go to jeopardy. Who knows?
I want him to stay though, because honestly, that Rodgers to Rodgers connection back in the day when they had the tight end Richard Rodgers, that A Rodgers to A Rodgers connection is just going to be too good to pass up.
I mean, I think Rodgers is a good pick there, but I mean, just thinking about they could have got the Elijah Moore, Terrence Marshall, I mean, there were so many wide receivers still available. Rondell Moore. I mean, just so many guys available.
They could have got Elijah Moore as well in the first round. The Jets ended up taking them, which we'll get to later.
I like Elijah. I mean, they should have they just messed up. I mean, they messed up.
All right, so then the final team in the NFC North, we have the Vikings. Honestly, this is probably an A to an A plus grade. I love everything the Vikings did. They traded down in the first round with the Jets, and everybody in the world thought the Vikings were gonna get Elijah Vera Tucker. It was just kind of set in stone that that's who they wanted. But they traded down and got arguably the second or third best lineman in the draft in Christian Darrisaw. And because they traded, they didn't have a second round pick. In the third round, they got Kellen Mond, who I'm surprised was kind of still on the board in the third round. I thought he could have been a candidate for a second round pick. They had 4 third round picks, but they had 2 from the Jets when they traded down. So they took Kellen Mond, they took the linebacker Chaz Surratt, and then they took Wyatt Davis, the offensive guard out of Ohio State, who many people had as a first-round pick. So to get him at 86 was kind of a steal. Patrick Jones, he needs a little bit of work, but the last edge rusher out of Pittsburgh seemed to work out very, very well. And then, they just got a lot of plug-and-play guys, kind of guys that need to develop a little bit. The Iowa wide receiver, I'm not even going to pronounce his name. I think he has a chance to maybe play in the slot a little bit this year. I'm a little bit surprised they waited so long to last in tight end. They kind of needed a tight end 3, which they took.
That guy's going to be a beast.
Maybe take a tight end earlier, but you do have Irv Smith and Tyler Conklin, so you didn't really need a tight end. Wasn't a big need, but maybe that's like the only complaint is maybe take one earlier. But they pretty much hit on everything they needed. I think Kellen Mond has a good chance to take over if Cousins starts struggling. Honestly, I had him rated much higher as a quarterback than probably other people. I had him probably as a top 5 quarterback. People said he was like 6 or 7. I think he's better than Mac Jones, but that's just me. And so, this is like an A plus it's like an A to an A plus, so it's probably my highest graded draft.
Now, I've been high on Kellen Mond during his whole time at Texas A&M. I kept waiting for them to bust through. I thought, for sure they were going to bust through and be a top 5 team. So I'm a little biased here about Mond. I think Mond is going to be, other than Trevor Lawrence, probably the best quarterback in this class. I just think it's going to work out. And sliding to a decent team and a decent organization in the Vikings, where the pressure's not going to be on him to succeed right away. If they decide to move on from Cousins, Mond will have a good supporting cast with, Dalvin Cook and Thielen. And so I really like this one. I think Darrisaw is a very, very good pick. Davis, Wyatt Davis at 86, that's an absolute steal. They got a couple of Pitt defensive lineman teammates, It's always, when you're taking, especially guys from the same unit, it helps them comfort, it helps them come along. It's going to work well. I don't know a whole lot about that Iowa State running back because everybody's so high on the other one. I believe he's coming out next year that I don't really know a whole lot about him.
Brees Hall, I believe that was Hall's backup.
And I get the tight end late. You got to replace Rudolph, and they're going to have Smith and Conklin kind of, it'll be 1 and 1A kind of where it'll work well. But this is one of my favorites just because I'm mad that Kellen Mond went to the Vikings as a Lions fan because now I got to deal with it. But I give this a solid A.
Yeah, and if Green Bay figures out the stuff with Rodgers, having Rodgers, Mond, and Fields as quarterbacks in that division, that's not exactly a sight you want to see.
Hey.
2 offensive linemen in the first 3 rounds. Kellen Mond's going to pressure. Kirk's got to play well this year. He might not be the quarterback of the future. Kellen Mond, we'll see how far along he comes because he's going from an air raid to Zimmerman's more of a
air raid to a run first kind of smash mouth team.
We'll see how that goes, or if they'll decide to change the offense up a little bit. But then I've always kind of liked Patrick Jones a little bit. He led the college in sacks last year, or if he wasn't leading, he was definitely up there. And then they just got a lot of developmental guys. No one that's like a full prospect. The running back there, he's got a lot of tools, very athletic. He never really got his chance at Iowa State, so we'll see. The Florida State defensive end, a lot of talent, needs a lot of coaching. Wide receiver from Iowa is a good, solid pick there in the 5th round. And then the tight end, he played at a very small school. So we'll see how that plays out. But, he dominated at his level. So
and it doesn't really matter what school you come from. If you're talented, the NFL will come calling and find you.
Yeah. This is a solid A draft from Minnesota.
All right, so now we're going over to the NFC East, and we're going to start with the Cowboys. The Cowboys did well on 2 picks. They did well on the Micah Parsons, and they did good on the Jabril Cox. But the rest of their draft, I feel like they reached a lot. Kelvin Joseph, I did not know that man was even going to be a second rounder. Felt like that dude was going to be a 4th to 5th round guy. I can't even pronounce the dude out of UCLA, the defensive tackle, but he went a little early. Their corner in the 4th round, Nyshawn Wright, he's tall, and I think both of their corners are pretty tall. And they also got this Israel Mamukmu, the dude who was on the other side of J.C. Horn. They're tall corners, which is what new defensive coordinator Dan Quinn likes. He likes those tall, athletic corners, but I think the Cowboys just reached for way too many guys in this draft. I really, like I said, I like the Micah Parsons pick, and I like the Jabril Cox pick. I think the problem with the Cowboys is once they seen J.C. Horn go 8 and Patrick Surtain go 9, because everybody in the world thought Patrick Surtain was going to be a Cowboy. It was like set in stone. Like, there was, outside of Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson, there was 2 other picks that you could pretty much guarantee. You could guarantee that Surtain was going to be a Cowboy and Najee Harris was going to be a Steeler, which we'll talk about later. But that was kind of set in stone, and then once he went to Denver, Dallas kind of panicked a little bit. They traded down, surprisingly, with their division rival Eagles, and they kind of just picked the best available at the time because they were panicking because they really wanted a corner. And so I think their overbearing need for corner kind of led them to reach. So it's like a C to C minus. The only thing that's saving them is the Parsons and Cox pick. That's it.
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall when both those corners were gone, and they were scrambling, because I'm sure Jerry Jones was saying some very interesting things, and trading down with the Eagles, who they screwed last year, but then they decided to help out this year. I'm like,
kind of funny.
Okay. I think Parsons is going to be solid. I also like the Cox pick, but I think the fact that they panicked kind of ruins it a little, and the fact that they didn't get the corners they want. So I give it. I'm about a C plus, give or take, just because I think Parsons and Cox are going to really help that defense out. But
especially with Sean Lee retiring and Van Der Esch having so many injury problems, those guys could possibly be day one starters.
So they're open to other guys. So yeah, I give it a solid C plus.
I'm kind of indifferent with you guys on this one. I'm actually going to give them an A minus here.
Please explain.
Is the best. I hate the Cowboys, but they got lucky. They got lucky with this. Micah Parsons is the best defensive player in this draft, and I don't even think it's close, really. I mean, I love J.C. Horn.
I mean, I would argue you could put J.C. Horn there,
but Parsons, he's a beast. Kelvin Joseph, I actually like this kid a lot. He's kind of a head case, and we'll kind of see how he does.
Perfect Cowboy.
They got some pass rushers, and then Jabril Cox was a good pick. And then I told Anthony, I like this Simi Fehiko guy. I liked him before the draft. It kind of sucks that he went to the Cowboys. He's been inconsistent at times, but he has all the physical tools, and if he just trains, he'll be a good pick. We'll see how it goes, but the Micah Parsons pick is what makes it that good. I mean, he's gonna be an All-Pro.
He could easily be their next linebacker for the next 10 years or so.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
that's the thing. That's the thing about those guys who didn't play this year, like with Sewell and Parsons. I'm curious how opting out is gonna affect them and how they end up being as overall players, but that's you're not going to know until you see. But that's something I'm curious about.
I do kind of question that, but at the same time, you think about it, like certain positions, like a linebacker, Parsons, look at the amount of tackles he does and the amount of hitting he does. His body is probably going to be better off this upcoming year, just because of that. I mean, like certain positions like that, like Penei Sewell, he's an offensive lineman. He takes the hitting. You've seen him. We know that he's going to be good. It might kind of be better for a couple of those guys. But like a Jamar Chase, I know he had a great season, and I do believe in him. But like as a wide receiver, you're just not used to playing for a year. How is that going to translate? I do like Micah Parsons a lot. Just sucks that he went to the Cowboys.
So the next one is the Philadelphia Eagles, who, as we mentioned, traded up with the Cowboys because the Cowboys were in panic mode once both J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain were off the clock. So then, last year they completely took CeeDee Lamb from the Eagles, the Cowboys did, because they knew the Eagles really wanted CeeDee Lamb. So this year they're like, yeah, we'll help you out. Who do you want? So the Eagles, with the 10th pick, took Devontae Smith, who I'm surprised lasted that long. There was rumblings that he could go anywhere from 5 to 7, and he really wouldn't get past the Lions at 7. And then they got his Alabama teammate center offensive guard Landon Dickinson, who, if he can stay healthy, is a solid pick, but he's had a lot of injury issues. That's his only downfall. Milton Williams, they kind of reached, because as I said, the Lions took McNeil, and the Eagles really wanted McNeil, so they kind of reached on Milton Williams. Zach McPherson hopefully will help Darius Slay out. I think they should have addressed corner a little bit earlier, but Zach McPherson should probably start day one. I really like the Kenneth Gainwell pick. I think he has a chance to be the lead back in that offense pretty much right away. Then they went another, these USC defensive tackles and players, they got names nobody can pronounce. That's probably why they haven't been that good lately. And then, they went more edge rushers, because their edge rushers, they took a chance with them early on, but Brandon Graham isn't going to be around forever. He's getting kind of old. Overall, I kind of like what they did. It's a solid B to B minus, because their first couple picks, if they stay healthy, are good. My only worry with Devontae Smith is like Tutu Atwell. He's kind of small, but I think he plays bigger than Tutu Atwell. But they're both kind of small, so it worries me with those smaller receivers going up against 260-pound linebackers that you don't see every week in college.
Yeah, I'm a little questioning. I get you needed a receiver at 10, and like you said, Devontae Smith, he's scrawny. And I get it. He's talented, and he went to Alabama, and Alabama receivers are usually work out. But he's gonna get rocked by somebody, and it's I get you could run past people at Alabama, but these are the best of the best. You're gonna get smoked by somebody. Being so scrawny, he's built like a toothpick with long arms. I don't know what else to be like.
Yep. No, that pretty much describes him. He kind of built like me a little bit, like toothpick with long arms.
He's stretched out Anthony, but and Dickerson. Offensive linemen with injury problems
are never a good thing.
Red flag.
Yeah, are never a good thing. But if he can stay healthy, it's an absolute steal.
But that if is longer than Devontae Smith's arms. That's a big if. I don't see him staying healthy. That makes the first two kind of questionable. I don't really think Smith was even close. There were much better receivers that went later that I think are going to have much better NFL careers than Smith. And I get they took him because of what he did, and it just made sense. But I think that one's going to blow up in their face. I think both those first two picks are going to blow up in their face. I don't really know a whole lot about the rest of them. For the corner out of Texas Tech, I'm going to take a point off just because his last name. It's an inside joke. I give this a solid. I'm going to give it a B minus, just because Dickerson may work out and he may not.
Yeah, a B minus is solid. I mean, probably won't have the success that he did in college, but I know Jalen Hurts was really wanting Smith and Waddle, even if he might not be their guy.
And we'll talk about that, because a lot of wide receiver quarterback connections happened, and then when Jacksonville did it with quarterback running back, which we'll talk about later, everybody had a problem with it, but nobody else seemed to have a problem with the quarterback wide receiver connection. And I just have to, it's pretty much just the comfort, which we'll get into later. But that's pretty much what that pick was. It was kind of a comfort pick.
And I guess if you look at it as if Hurts really wanted Smith, then at least they're acknowledging their quarterback on some other teams.
Unlike Green Bay. No, sorry.
Yeah, so the first two picks, obviously, I think we can all agree, good picks if they stay healthy, but unlikely that they will stay healthy. Williams, a little bit of a reach. I do like his potential, but he's got to fill out a little bit. I mean, he's only 285 for a defensive tackle.
Like I said, they were reaching because they wanted McNeil, and the Lions took him, so they were kind of. Yeah. It was kind of like when the Cowboys lost both corners, they were kind of panicking. The Eagles were panicking a little bit there because they really wanted. Yeah. They wanted, and the sad part is they had just traded down and hoping that they would get McNeil falling into their lap, but then the Lions took him, and so they were like, oh crap, we traded down, and then he doesn't land in our lap. But that's just the way the draft goes sometimes. You trade down, you risk you risk the chance of your player not being there.
So we'll see how Milton does. I think he's got a good upside, but we'll see how he develops. The pick, there's two guys I did like, is the Kenneth Gainwell pick. He's only 5'8", but he's built really well. He's a really good pass catcher out of the backfield. They didn't really use Sanders as much as they should have last year. He had some really good games, and Boston Scott had a decent season as a backup running back too. So they got some good running backs there. Hopefully they use them and just let Jalen Hurts, kind of learn. Well, running the ball a little bit more and even passing it to the running backs. Kobe Stevens, he had a good year when they won the national championship, but that defense kind of fell apart last year. I don't know if it was just because of the guys just weren't into it, but he's a good instinctive safety. Not like the most athletic guy in the world, but he's a good instinct guy. I mean, it's a solid B- draft, but we'll see if the guys can stay healthy at top.
Yep. All right. So the Washington football team, another team that I really liked what they did. I think they reached a little bit for Jamin Davis. He was a late riser on everybody's board, so he kind of went where he was expected. Getting Sam Cosmi at 51 when he was expected to go pretty much late first round, mid to late first round, is a bit of a steal. Former Michigan/Minnesota cornerback Benjamin St. Juste. He's a bit of a taller corner, so it's just another luxury pick for one of the better defenses in the league. Damani Brown, lasting as long as he did, is a steal. Don't really know much about John Bates. Cincinnati safety Derek Forrest in that defense, playing behind like Landon Collins, he'll be fine. I don't like the fact that they traded up for a long snapper, but I can't really blame them when the dude's name is Cheeseman. Them trading up for a long snapper justified. 7th round, I really like what they did with Shaka Toney and Dax Maline. I think both of those guys have a chance to make the roster and not sit on the practice squad all season. Shaka Toney, I think, should have been gone much sooner, and then Maline, it was one of Wilson's favorite targets. I think he'll do just well. I wish they would have addressed quarterback, but they have Fitzpatrick. I wish they would have targeted a quarterback, but that's my only downfall. It's a solid A- draft for me. I really like what they did.
Without knowing if they tried to move up to get a quarterback, because we'll never know. I mean, you can, people can say that maybe they did, but maybe they did. I mean, with Fitzpatrick and Heineke, you're biding your time. They're going to try again next year and try and find the right fit. Yeah, Jamin Davis. I mean, he was flying up the boards that week before the draft. Everybody's like, he's going to get taken first round. He's going to surprise. And there he goes, 19. Those guys that usually sneak up, I don't know. I feel like that's some late hype, and then that could be dangerous. Cosme at 51, I mean, that's a solid one. I mean, like, the man's name is Cheeseman. Like, like that's got to give you a boost to your draft.
They got him drafted based off his name alone. He got drafted.
Like, and the fact he's like top 10 names in football right there.
And the fact they traded up for him tells you all you need to know about the kind of person that he is.
If you trade up for a long snapper, this man best be, there will never be a missed snap. That's the standard.
And he's playing in the league for 15 years.
Oh yeah, he's the next Don Muhlbeck. He's gonna be great. I think Shaka Toney's got the chance to probably be the best guy taken in that 200s, the 200 pick ranges. Yep. I think Shaka Toney's he's got a very good chance to be the best 200-ish pick.
Especially going to a team like Washington, who on the other side is Chase Young. So you're going to very much have any success
there's a lot of depth
as an edge rusher on the other side of, I believe it's left end, because I believe Chase Young plays right end, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, anybody who plays on the other side of the end, you're going to have very much success playing alongside Chase Young.
So I'm going to give it a solid B+, only because Davis is kind of a question mark because he was a late riser, but I'm going to go B+.
Which, though, I mean, he's kind of built like the linebacker that Rivera really likes, though, so he could be like a Thomas Davis type, Luke Kuechly kind of guy for him.
For me, this is a solid. Jamin Davis, probably a reach, honestly, probably a little bit more in the 20s range, just because he was a high riser, like you guys are saying.
I would have loved to see them trade up for Xavier. If they could have traded up and if Arizona didn't take Xavier Collins, could you imagine if the football team took him? Oh my God.
Yeah. But I mean, he's going to do well there. I mean, their defensive line is amazing. Basically, he's just got to shoot the gap and tackle the guy. But he's a modern day linebacker. I mean, you look at Levante David,
Devin White.
So I mean, you look at those guys. Roquan Smith. He's a modern day linebacker. Cosme was a good pickup. I mean, you just had to take him. He was there. Then they addressed the corner need and the wide receiver need that they did in the offseason as well, but they kind of just reimbursed it with that.
Yeah, unfortunately
Tony's definitely going to be a good pick in the late round.
Unfortunately for, I believe it's Curtis Samuel and Scary Terry, they don't really have anybody throw them the ball, unfortunately, but that is a nice wide receiver pairing, and then they once again addressed it with him.
Fitzmagic will get them a ball about half the time.
Them plus Damani Brown, as long as they continue to build that defense up, that could be a very, very good team in the next couple seasons. If they find a quarterback, they have a very good chance to go all the way. I was going to say the Giants actually had a pretty solid draft. There was rumblings that before the Eagles traded up with the Cowboys that Devontae Smith was going to go 11 to the Giants, but they traded down. Obviously, they traded down with the Bears. which ended up being good because now they have 2 firsts, 2 thirds, and I believe 2 fifths next year. So they have a lot of room to work with next year. They got they sat at 20. They got Kadarius Toney, who I'm not really high on as much as other people are. I just need to see more from him. Getting Azeez Ojulari at 50 was a bit of a steal. I really like their Aaron Robinson selection. I think he's a very underrated corner. And then, yeah, so this was actually a very just kind of sit and wait and be smart kind of draft. They didn't have a whole lot of picks this year. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a couple of sixes. I think this was more set up for them to have success next year in the draft when they have more picks. It's a solid, just a kind of B minus C plus kind of. It was good but not great kind of draft.
And I think with them, they spent a good chunk of money this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
So they're buying their time to see if they can work it out. And that's why they're stacking picks for next year in case if Daniel Jones can't do it now, he's never going to do it.
Yep.
So they're going to buy their time, have 2 firsts next year, and then they can use it for leverage if they need to. I am also not a big fan of Toney at 20. I think he's going to be solid, and especially as a compliment to Galladay. I mean, Galladay's a big physical guy, and Toney's just a little, fast little.
I believe they released Golden Tate, so he'll kind of fill those shoes of Golden Tate.
Right. At 20, I'm not a big fan of it. I see what they're doing, and I'll give them credit for that because they're stacking picks for next year in case Jones doesn't work. They're spending this money to try and give Jones that chance before they bail and go up for somebody else.
Yep.
So it's not a really sexy draft. It's not anything special. I'm going to go, I don't know, maybe a B minus because it's not really anything super special. I like what they did with the trade, and the trade itself is going to boost their draft grade.
All right, yeah, I'm with the B. First of all, Tony's probably going to not a first-round type wide receiver just because Daniel Jones is the quarterback. I mean, they got a lot from the Chicago trade, but at the same time, they would have got Justin Fields. I like Justin Fields like 3 times as much as Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, I mean, he can't even run into the end zone. I do like Azeez.
Ojulari.
I like Aaron Robinson. I like Ellerson Smith. Those guys are good picks to help their defense. Those are 3 good picks right there, but Kadarius Toney, I don't know. I just have some question marks for him. He's a big-time playmaker. I don't know. It was a good trade as far as value, but I just feel like I know they weren't going to go quarterback, but I personally don't believe in Daniel Jones, and I think Justin Fields is going to be a better quarterback than him.
Yep, and that completes the NFC, and so now we'll move over to the west of the AFC. We're going to go ahead and start with the Broncos. Pick 9 was a very, very big concern for me. They didn't really need a corner. Patrick Surtain's just kind of a surplus pick for them. They ended up getting Kyle Fuller, and your secondary was already pretty good. So that's kind of just a luxury pick. I think 9. I think they should have went Justin Fields there. I don't think Drew Lock is the answer, and trading for Teddy Bridgewater just puts a band-aid on the whole thing. Trading up for Javonte Williams is another is it necessary kind of pick. They already have Melvin Gordon, and running backs are a dime a dozen. You can pretty much find them anywhere, unless it's like a generational type talent like Saquon Barkley. Big fan of Quentin Marins, whatever his name is, out of Wisconsin Whitewater. Marins, whatever.
Something.
Big fan of the dude out of Wisconsin Whitewater. Big thickums that'll really help that offensive line. Baron Browning also is a good pick. They doubled up on safety in the 5th round, which I don't really understand. I get Jamar Johnson out of Indiana was the best player on the board at the time.
It's like they were unsure about Caden Stearns and was like, wait, maybe we should take another one.
Caden Stearns is okay, and then Jamar Johnson was just kind of the best player on the board at the time. And then Seth Williams, very underrated. I think he was probably the better Auburn receiver that got taken later in the rounds. And then Kerry Vincent Jr., part of that LSU defense that collapsed. They took a lot of DBs in this draft when I think they needed to address positions otherwise, especially like quarterback. They did a lot of DBs. They have a surplus of DBs now, and I don't think they need it. I don't know. I don't really like what they did. It's kind of a C minus. The talent is good, but it's just a lot of unnecessary picks for me.
I could not justify them giving up on Locke already. I get thinking about Fields at 9, but you can't possibly have Locke, Bridgewater, and Fields all on the roster at the same time. It's a waste. So, and Surtain, I think he's the best defensive player in this draft. I think Surtain is going to be a lockdown corner, absolute shut down one side of the field superstar. So I get it at 9. I don't really. I would have judged them a little if they would have given up on Locke already. I don't think you can give up on Locke yet.
Yeah,
After
but
that first year, I mean, he didn't play immediately the first year, and then we had that white. Was it his first year or was it his second year? He had the thumb issue. Was it last year?
I think it was last year, but you have to think they've gone kind of the Giants route. They've given him pretty much everything they can for him to succeed. They have great tight ends. They got Jerry Jeudy and company at wide receiver.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's really no. So I mean, it's like if this year isn't the year, then it's just not going to be it.
He finished that first year right down the stretch. He was on fire, and then his second year, it's really hard to judge guys based upon what they did last year, just because the year was crazy for everybody, and he started the year with a thumb issue, which puts him behind schedule. And I honestly think he's gonna probably pan out with Javonte Williams at 35. I mean, he's gonna be solid. I think he's probably, I don't know, I have a sneaking suspicion he's gonna work out as the best running back in this class just because of where other guys went. But I don't really get it at 35. I'm also really big on the linemen of Wisconsin Whitewater. I love them big old, country farm boys on the offensive line. Those dudes get the job done.
Be a beast for sure.
And I'm also really big on taking teammates, especially on the same side of the ball. They got the linebacker from Ohio State, and then they got Cooper late, the defensive end. I think it's really, especially when it's either the same side of the ball or the same position group, I think it helps guys transition when there's somebody in that room that they know what they can expect from. And I think that combination is good. I do kind of question taking the safeties, so close, 12 picks apart. Because of the fact that I'm so high on Surtain and Miners, I'm giving this one an A.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a B on this one. Surtain, for me, is a top 3 defensive guy. Was really good at Alabama. We'll see how he does when he plays Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, and Derek Carr. I think that was the right move. If they felt like he was the best defensive player, then I'm okay with that. It probably would have been better if they took Micah Parsons, but if they felt like Surtain was the better defensive player, do that. Offensive lineman out of Wisconsin Whitewater. I kind of liked him coming up the draft. He had a great day at Reese's Senior Bowl there. I think Javonte Williams was actually a good complimentary pick for Drew Lock. Phillip Lindsay, when he had his good year, Phillip Lindsay was having a great rushing year. And then last year, the running backs kind of went downhill. The offensive line was a little iffy. And Cortland Sutton was out. They'll have their wide receivers back, and I think Javonte Williams will just help them a little bit, pushing up the ball down the field. I like him as the third running back in the draft. I also am not a believer in Melvin Gordon. I know he had a couple good years when it was San Diego, but he just gets hurt a lot, and he's kind of an inconsistent running back. And he's a very schematic running back. Like, he needs a good offensive line and a good zone scheme. Denver just has an okay line. It's a solid B draft. We'll see how it does.
And to go on that point, I'm surprised it wasn't Parsons as well, because Von Miller's not getting any younger. You already have a great player in Bradley Chubb. So yeah, I was a bit surprised they went corner over linebacker and quarterback. I don't even want to talk about these guys because it's just a typical John Gruden graft for the Las Vegas Raiders. A lot of reaching for them. Alex Leatherwood, you could have taken at 43, and Trayvon Moehrig, you could have taken at 17. That's what I would have done. So I guess if you flip those two, it's not that bad. It's just Alex Leatherwood has a chance at a fifth year, and Moehrig doesn't. Yeah, there's just a lot of reaching on this draft. Buffalo edge Malcolm Concy or whatever. Divine Diablo is probably moving to linebacker. Tyree Gillespie isn't bad, but there's just so much reaching on this. And yes, I understand you traded away or released most of your line, but you don't reach at 17 for a lineman that you could have gotten much later and taken, maybe a better rated linebacker. But this is just kind of what Gruden and Mike Mayock do. They kind of just have a school that they like picking from, and they reach from that school. Like, what was it, 2 years ago? They reached from Clemson and took Farrell at 4. Yeah, when nobody expected that to happen this year, they reached for Leatherwood. I don't like this draft at all. It's a very, very low rated, like C-, D+ for me. I don't like it at all.
Mike Mayock needs to go back to NFL Network.
I don't like this draft at all.
Trayvon Moehrig's a good pick. But why are you picking 3 safeties? That just doesn't make any sense. Even if you're saying, all right, Diablo's going to go down to linebacker, or he's going to play like a Cam Chancellor type position. That doesn't make any sense. Why they're picking a cornerback in the 5th round when that's probably one of their top 3 needs? Get a wide receiver which this wide receiver draft was really deep. I'm not saying they should have got one in the first 3 rounds, but that 4th pick, why are you picking a safety? Pick a wide receiver.
Especially when you lost Aguilar and Tyrell Williams, one to Detroit and one to New England. You should have at least tried to address that. That's why I said I don't like this draft that they did at all.
Yeah, this is a D. I mean, Leatherwood will probably be solid, but it's not a first-round pick, and Warwick will be good.
Especially when you took Leatherwood over Darisaw, and then let Darisaw fall right to the Vikings.
Tevin Jenkins, who I like a lot better. Even the kid out of Michigan I kind of like better than Leatherwood. I know that they were looking for a right tackle, but that's what I'm saying. Like, Tevin Jenkins is that, he can play both. Darisaw could have played both. It didn't make sense. Morwig's the only pick that they got.
Correct.
Really good.
Yes.
And I'm kind of wondering why he slid down.
It came out that during his workout they saw like a wrap on his back, and so he had a back injury. So there was a lot of questions about his health, and that's why he fell.
Well, maybe he's got some back issues, and then that picks a bust.
And the crazy thing is that they traded up for him when they could have just taken him at 17 and wouldn't have had to trade up for him.
Everything about this, it's shadows of the Farrell year all over again.
Yeah.
Leatherwood, he's going to be okay, but, I don't get it at 17. I just don't get it. And it's just like Farrell all over again. What are you doing? And Morrig, I'm sure he's probably okay, and the team's just kind of panicked because they don't really. That's usually what happens. Is some just minor little thing happens and it causes.
And it's the same thing with
not being a big deal.
It's the same thing with JOK, which we'll get to probably, I believe, next. But that happened. Same thing with him.
I think it's kind of funny that they took the Buffalo defensive end after they just traded one and Khalil Mack.
But John Gruden, you got to give it up to John Gruden. He finds them late round Mac guys and they work out. Max Crosby.
Mac Crosby, that was a great steal. Divine Diablo, there's some names this year, man.
Yeah.
But this is not a good one. Not a good one. I think Morig's gonna definitely be better than 43rd. I think he just kind of got unlucky and scared some teams away. But I C- is generous.
Plus, they ended up re-signing after trading him away. They ended up re-signing Carl Joseph. So you are absolutely loaded at the safety position right now.
Yeah, I know the safety. It's like you took 3 safeties.
You are absolutely loaded at safety right now. All right, and so then we move on to the Chiefs, who didn't have a first-round pick, but turned that into offensive tackle Orlando Brown Jr. They took Nick Bolton at 58, who, if any of you watched our mock draft, know people were very, very high on him. I wasn't as high on him as the rest of everybody was. Taking Creed Humphrey at 63, he should have been gone to the Eagles over Dickerson. They just addressed needs that they needed to do. So, they needed offensive line help. So what did they do? Trade for an offensive lineman. They took Creed Humphrey. They took offensive guard Trey Smith, who probably could have gone higher. And this was just kind of like in Tampa's position, just kind of a luxury draft for them. They noticed what they needed to fix, and they fixed it. So it's just a kind of a their draft again. I like some of their picks, but it's like a C, just because they didn't really need a whole lot coming into the draft. So it's just kind of luxury.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing you did. It's a lot like Tampa Bay. It's nothing sexy, just doing what you do, fill some roster spots. I think Bolton at 58 is a pretty solid steal. I didn't know until now. I just was reading that Smith had blood clot issues. That's why he slipped to 226?
226, yeah.
He had some blood clot issues, which that's a big thing.
That's a big thing.
That's nothing to sneeze at.
But yeah, that would be why he dropped, because I think he should have gone much earlier.
Yeah, what it says is that cost him probably 3 or 4 rounds.
Yep.
3 or 4 rounds just because of those issues.
Cost him a couple million.
I like the Bolton pick. Nothing else is really super sexy. Humphrey's solid. If Smith can get his stuff worked out with now he's got the NFL doctors. He's got some good doctors now. I'm sure he get good doctors at Tennessee, but he's got next level doctors, next level. People take care of him. if that can work out, that could be a steal at 226 for a team that Patrick Mahomes, he spent the Super Bowl running for his. I've never seen a quarterback run for his life like Patrick Mahomes did that game.
And they didn't have a first-round pick.
It was ridiculous.
They didn't have a first-round pick because of Orlando Brown Jr., but that might have ended up being kind of like in the Rams' position. That might have actually been the better pick in the end because like the Rams gave up 2 firsts for Jalen Ramsey, but it's worth the 2 firsts that they gave up. And in this situation, it's worth the first round that they gave up to get a.
Orlando Brown he's going to step in and he's your left tackle, right? Yeah, he's going to be stud for years to come.
Absolutely, the biggest steal that they could have had probably in this entire first round.
So I'm going to give it I'm going to give it a B- just because it's not super sexy, but Bolton because I'm pretty high on Bolton at 58. And Smith could work out. I'll give it about that range, B-.
All right, yeah, I'm going to go with a B. It's nothing flashy, like you guys are saying. A lot of luxury picks, because this team's going to probably make the Super Bowl again. If Mahomes can stay healthy. Bolton, they needed a linebacker. They had some troubles with it last year and had some injuries as well. So that's a solid pick. Humphrey and Trey Smith, both good interior offensive linemen. You guys said. He's going to get some treatment. He'll get it worked out. It's a 6th-round pick. You're not really losing much with that. So
even if he's a backup, that's solid at 226.
Yeah. And then you look. I really like Powell. I watched him a lot. Watching Clemson.
Well, Clemson wide receivers now with Trevor Lawrence are pretty much always an decision to make.
He gets open. He just gets open. He has really good hands. He's just reliable. And when you got Patrick Mahomes throwing you the ball, and the other guys on the team, he's going to be open. This is a good B draft. The Chiefs did their thing.
Was Powell the guy who kind of just stayed there and he was stuck behind all the really stealthy receivers they've had?
Yep.
So he's a team player.
Yeah.
What could you possibly a team player receiver on a studly team with Patrick Mahomes? He's not
Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. Oh my!
If you're a Clemson wide receiver, he could have left and found anywhere that he could have, probably been a wide receiver 1.
He could have went to like Illinois or something and been a wide receiver 1, but he stuck it out.
So I didn't even think about that until you mentioned it. I think Powell is going to be as a steal. So I'm going to round up. I'm going to go up to a B+ because I think that could be a sneaky pick just because I think he's a good team player and it'll work out.
Yeah, you look at they got McCole Hardman and Tyreek Hill, the speedsters, and then they've had Sammy Watkins there for a while. And Sammy wasn't really healthy a whole lot. This kid's been at Clemson for 4 years. Yeah, I know. He's been there at Clemson for 4 years. He's played behind guys like T. Higgins and all the other, receivers throughout the years.
So he doesn't have a lot of mileage on him. He hasn't taken a lot of hits, and I think that's really a big thing with guys coming into the NFL. Exactly. Those guys that you don't want the guys that come in with 4,000 yards rushing. You don't want those guys because they've been taking a pounding and their bodies are going to give out. And I think those guys that they spare their bodies and they do what they need to do. They get there, and all it takes is a shot. And I think that and this is a case where it's going to work out.
Yeah, you look at guys that are at good universities on good teams that don't get the recognition as like Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne got. Those guys, they were the headline. You look at guys that are just good team players, and then they go to good teams like Kansas City. He's going to succeed. And then the offensive lineman that they got, and then Nick Bolton, kind of being a later pick than he should have been. He should have been an early second, maybe late first, but
he would have made a lot more sense for the Saints than who they took. But that's a story for another day.
All right, so we're going to move on to the other team in LA, the Chargers. They had a fantastic draft. In the first round, they took Rashawn Slater, who many people had even above Penei Sewell. So they were kind of 1 and 1A. Then they took Asante Samuel Jr., obviously son of Asante Samuel. Very good corner selection there. I think they reached a little bit with Josh Palmer. I think there were better receivers like Nico Collins, etc., and Amon-Ra St. Brown on the board at the time. Georgia tight end Trey McKitty. Interesting name. There's been some interesting names in this draft this year. I think they're going to move him along slowly, and hopefully he turns out to be a Hunter Henry type player for them. There was a good ESPN story on Chris Rump. Nebraska, Wisconsin linemen, you know how they are. I really like the Nick Neiman and the Larry Roundtree, the third picks. I think both of those guys have a chance to make solid impacts on the roster. It's definitely an A- draft for me. I really, really like what the Chargers did.
Yeah, I'm really high on this one too. I'm going to go with an A. I think Slater at 13, you're protecting your investment in Herbert. And Slater, he's a dog. He's going to protect Herbert. Asante Samuel, just like J.C. Horn, I'm big on those sons of NFL players. Like, that's going to work out. He's going to be a locked down one side of the field kind of guy. We've had this discussion a couple times. They're another team that took a couple of guys from the same school in McKitty and Mark Webb. Yep. Granted, it's opposite sides of the field, and from what I remember about McKitty, he didn't get a whole lot of touches, not a whole lot of playing time. They didn't really use him a whole lot. So it could be another instance where it's a guy with not a lot of mileage. He comes in, wants to prove himself, show that he played at Georgia, so there's got to be some talent there. And I think that one could end up working out. You're not risking a whole lot by taking a tight end at 97. Roundtree late, I think that was a solid pick. I mean, on a Missouri team that struggled at times, Roundtree was pretty solid. Yeah, I'm very high on this one.
Yeah, there's not a lot of misses here, and especially when you actually listen to your quarterback. It's always good when you help your quarterback out. Getting a former NFL player, son, those always turn out fairly well. Palmer, maybe not the top wide receiver on the board, but a guy that they obviously like. McKitty, a good tight end, not a lot of miles, like you said. Roundtree, and then they help their secondary, Asante Samuel Jr. and Mark Webb there.
All right, and so we're gonna move on to the AFC South, and we're gonna start with the team that didn't have a lot of picks, the Houston Texans. So with their first pick, they took quarterback Davis Mills. Obviously, with the uncertainty surrounding Deshaun Watson and his legal stuff going on, quarterback was almost a necessity for them. I believe they did sign Tyrod Taylor though in the offseason, so those two are going to be battling it out, but he doesn't have a lot of experience, so it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. They traded up with a team that doesn't have a lot of picks. Trading up is probably one of the worst things you can do, but they traded up for Michigan wide receiver Nico Collins. I think that's actually going to be a sneaky good pick. Michigan's quarterback situation has always been terrible, so the receivers always come out and do much better, but they always fall, but I think this is the first time in Harbaugh's 6 years that he had a skill position player taken in the top 100. Miami tight end Brevin Jordan, absolute steal. I think the Chargers should have taken him over McKitty. I think that would have been fantastic. And then for a team that's defense really got gutted, you don't have a whole lot of picks, but you waited till the 5th and 6th round to choose defense is not something I would have done. I understand the quarterback selection, but I think they really should have worked on defense with the other selection. It's a bad draft for me. I don't like it. It's a D for me. D plus. They don't have any picks, so it's kind of hard to judge. But I don't like what they did with the picks.
Yeah, they're in a bad spot, a very bad spot, because even if Watson gets cleared of all the crap,
he wants out. Yeah,
he still wants out.
Yeah.
Even if everything works out and it comes out that it's totally fine and it was all just a smear campaign or whatever, he still wants out. That doesn't go away. And I think with the fact that, like you said, they had Tyrod Taylor and a team that doesn't have a lot of picks, did you really need Davis Mills at 67?
Yeah.
For a team that doesn't have that many picks and you already have Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
Do you really need Davis Mills at 67? I'm pretty high on the Collins and Jordan picks. It's just ugly. The whole organization, the whole situation. It's
a
ugly.
Dumpster fire right now.
They're gonna be fighting for first pick this coming year.
It's a dumpster fire right now.
What?
It's just a dumpster fire right now. That whole organization.
Oh yeah, because even if you're in a bad situation. Either Watson never plays again if it turns out that the stuff is true, or he wants out, and then you can't get much for him because of the combination that he wants out and because of all the legal stuff. Teams are not going to give up a lot for him. So then the Texans are going to be even more screwed. So they have their first next year, right? It was this year and last year that they lost their first, right?
I believe so. I do believe they have their first next year.
When they're an absolute dumpster fire this year and they have first pick and they wasted a pick on Mills, they're going to take a quarterback next year. Mills is going to be a wasted pick.
And then they're going to have because if Tyrod Taylor does well, they'll probably re-sign him. So then you'll have Tyrod Taylor, Davis Mills, and a quarterback of your choosing next year. It's just going to create a lot.
The Texans will probably mess up their pick next year. I mean, Mills. I mean, I like the kid a lot. He didn't get a lot of playing time. You know, hearing David Shaw talk about him, and watching highlights from him, I think the kid has talent. It would have been a better situation if he got drafted by a team like Washington or a team like Tampa Bay, where he could just sit behind for a few years and just learn. With this situation, he's going into a bad organization. I understand the QB pick, and I kind of feel like they wanted Kellen Mond, but the Vikings got up and traded and picked him right before him.
If you want me to be honest, I think they should have taken Sam Ehlinger.
But, the Nico Collins pick, good. Brevin Jordan, he's more of just a wide receiving tight end. So we'll see how that'll play out. They've got a couple tight ends on the roster already. This is a draft where I don't think Houston, no matter who they pick, could really satisfy anyone. It's just been a bad offseason for them. It was a really bad year last year for them. J.J. Watt, the franchise's best player ever, basically said, I don't really want to play here anymore either, and left. I mean, when your franchise player for the history of your organization says, I just don't want to play here anymore, and then your quarterback says it,
Yeah, what is going on in that organization that your star quarterback and star defensive end want out?
Yeah.
And DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, and DeAndre Hopkins was out and traded for peanuts. Traded for peanuts. Your star wide receiver was out, and then, the year later, your star quarterback wants out, and your star defensive end. What is going on internally in that organization that many people want out?
JJ was a pretty soft-spoken dude, and he loved the Houston area, and he loved Texas.
Yeah.
You know how bad it's got to be for the man to be like, yeah, no, I'm done. He rode through some
literally,
stuff
JJ Watt
and he loved it there.
Yeah, JJ Watt's one of those guys you root for because it's like, he doesn't do anything wrong. He just shows up to work and does what he needs to do.
Yeah.
And by hating on the Davis Mills pick, I don't hate him. I hate the fact that they took him. I feel bad for him that he's going to get stuck there and probably never get the chance he probably actually needs because they're going to be a dumpster fire. They're going to take somebody first overall, and Davis Mills is probably never going to get that shot.
It's like the Josh Rosen situation. Like, Josh Rosen just never got a fair shot.
It's just a draft that can't satisfy anyone. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And then Anthony saying that they traded up. You only got a few picks. Why you traded up? And this is
You're a dumpster fire, and you added gasoline to the fire.
Yeah. I mean, it's just poor defense. You don't really go after that. Your first 3 picks were offense. It's a very typical Houston Texas draft, and I think everyone should feel bad for the kid from Stanford.
Moving on to the Tennessee Titans, they lost a lot of DBs over the offseason, so that was going to be their biggest need. They lost Malcolm Butler and Adoree Jackson. So what they do with the 22nd pick, they took Caleb Farley, who many had higher, but reports of a back injury that kind of led him to fall. So if that pans out, that's a really good pick. I'm much higher on the North Dakota State tackle, Trey Lance's blindside, than other people are. That's a solid pick too. Monty Rice was a good pick. Elijah Molden at pick 100, a very underrated pick. I think he has a chance to be one of the better corners in the draft. I understand you needed a wide receiver, but Des Fitzpatrick, there was other guys better on the board. Another Pittsburgh edge rusher, Rashad Weaver.
Going to jail.
He got drafted, and then there's reports of assault coming out on him. They took another receiver in Racy McMathom. To be honest, out of LSU, I never heard of this dude. He's one of them seniors that probably just he's probably one of those seniors that just kind of rode the bench and was there for the ride because I literally don't think this dude played at all. Overall, solid draft if things work out for him. I think those first 5 picks that they had were really, really solid. So I'll give it a B+. Yes, one of their biggest needs outside of corner was wide receiver, and you completely missed the mark on wide receiver.
The man had. In 3 years, he had 33 catches. He had 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, usually when you're at a big-time program like that at LSU and you get national exposure, normally people have heard of you. I never heard of that dude.
His career year was the year they won the national championship. He had 17 catches for 285 yards and 3 touchdowns.
He played? I didn't even remember him playing, to be honest with you, and I watched pretty much every LSU game that year.
He was probably playing with the backups.
And he was playing when they were blowing people out.
That would make sense. Yeah.
And it's hard to blame the Titans. You can't really blame the Titans for Weaver because they drafted him, and then he assaulted the woman who got arrested.
Yeah, so it's not their fault.
It's going to affect the grade. He very well might never play. Farley with the injury issues. I mean, injury issues are always a big thing. Is he going to live? Is he going to overcome it and never have a problem again, or is it going to be a problem and he's going to be a bust? And they had to take Rans because the tackle they took last year, I don't even know what the hell he's doing now. He's an absolute debacle.
Just absolutely
the guy they traded to Miami, and then Miami cut him. I don't know. There's a lot of question marks. Monty Rice, that's a good one, but and Radunz I like, but I don't think if Wilson wouldn't have done what he did, they probably would have taken Radunz there. I don't think so. I don't. There's a lot of big question marks, but I'm gonna give it a B plus, just because they acknowledge there's problems with the secondary with losing guys with Fairley. And I think Radunz is going to be solid. But there's a lot, especially late with, Weaver, he's probably very well may never play. Nick Math, the dude is like, who are you? Where did you play? You played in garbage time. There's a lot of question marks. But I'm gonna give it a B because they did acknowledge the problems.
Yeah, this is a B minus. Caleb Farley could be the best cornerback in this draft.
Arguably, if he stays healthy, yes. But I don't think so. But it's very possible.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not saying I think so. I'm saying it's possible. I kind of just feel like Tennessee doesn't do their homework on guys. I understand you didn't know that
they took the
but you gotta know who you draft. You gotta know the personalities of these guys. And then Wilson of last year. I mean, it's just you guys not do your homework.
They took a page out the Raiders.
And again, I just looked it up. The assault took place on the 18th of April. So the assault was before the draft.
But they didn't find out about it until after.
But it's like they just didn't do their homework on it. How do you not
just
pick a guy
if it happened on the 18th and the draft happened that weekend, that's not something that they're going to find out until Monday.
I don't know. It's just it feels like it doesn't really surprise me.
They took a drafting from the Cowboys and Raiders. Pretty much there.
This is a B minus draft. I do like Dylan Radon. I'm with you there, and Monte Rice. I mean, the Georgia linebacker. Those guys always somehow pan out. And then they kind of took some security blanket with Molden. He's a solid cornerback. Nothing too flashy. He's just solid. It's kind of like all right. We don't really know if Farley's going to be able to stay healthy pick. So, I mean, it's a B minus. Nothing too bad besides the Weaver pick. And then just the wide receivers. I mean, they lost Corey Davis, kind of they didn't really address it until the fourth round. So
yeah, and moving on to the Colts now, I'm going to be honest, I like their first two picks. After that, they kind of lose me. Their edge rushers are good in Kwity Paye and Dale, whatever his name is out of Vandy. Kwity Paye, there was rumors that he could go as high as 4 to the Falcons because they really needed an edge rusher. But he falls to 21 in a good organization in the Colts that know how to, treat their players. As they were trying with Andrew Luck, he kind of called it quits. They do try to listen to their players, and they address their needs. So it's not a bad spot for him to go. Yeah, and like I said, after that, they kind of lose me. They take a tight end out of SMU. They take Sam Ehlinger in the 6th, which is just kind of a insurance policy. Charleston, wide receiver, I guess you can be okay with guys out of that.
He's apparently 6'5", 225, and he's got some real long arms. And
so yeah, for 220,
he's kind of a project guy.
For 229, that's not bad. And then at 248, you took a guy named Fries, so I can't even hate on that.
Fries is he's an offensive tackle. Dude, that man's guaranteed to work out.
I mean, I like their first couple picks, but this draft they didn't do a whole lot. It's not one of those flashy drafts, so it's like a B minus just because it's not flashy at all to me.
And I think the fact that they're left, Costanzo retired.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't acknowledge it at all until 248. And I know I heard rumblings that they were inquiring on Eric Fisher and guys they were thinking about filling that hole other ways. The Vanderbilt defensive end, he's recovering from a torn Achilles.
Yep.
So he's not playing this year. That's Kwity Paye is a very solid pick at 21. You're taking a dude at 54 who's not playing this year, guaranteed, no chance.
Yeah, but once he's healthy, I think it'll be a very solid edge rusher for him.
Really, the thing is, also they're very deep on the defensive line, so it's kind of. I mean, they should have probably addressed the tackle position there
much earlier than they did.
It's a good pick, so it was kind of just like a luxury type pick, but at the same time, going back-to-back defensive end. A lot of teams have done back-to-back picks.
It's a good pick. On paper, it's a good pick if you don't look at the fact that they needed a tackle really badly.
Yeah. It's a good
Ehlinger,
pick.
I don't really get it. I mean, you just drafted Eason last year, and what was it, the 4th round? I mean,
this is saying that Eason, this is kind of like one of those where, is Eason it? If not, okay, we have Ehlinger.
Well, neither one of them are going to be it. They're going to give Carson Wentz the opportunity to have the keys to the car.
Yeah, Wentz is getting, I mean, he's gotten hurt a lot, so... I mean, they need a lot of backups.
I don't really get. I mean, if you have Eason, like you could have assigned some dude undrafted.
Yeah.
I just see. I don't know. It seems like a wasted pick.
Like freaking, who was it? Jamie Newman or whatever. He went undrafted. You could have just signed him.
Yeah, like the Charleston receiver, like you're saying, he's a big dude. That's and 229. It's a maybe this one will work at 6'5". You can't teach 6'5".
You could put him in goal line situations at 6'5" as a 7th round pick.
You can't teach somebody to be 6'5". You can teach somebody to catch the ball and run routes. I mean, Penn State offensive tackle. I mean, and his name was Fries. That writes itself. There's a lot. I'm not a big fan of it because of the fact that they ignored the need for tackle. After you traded for a quarterback who sneezes and hurts his back, I'm giving it a C. I'm giving it a C plus B minus.
It's a B minus. They needed to address the tackle position, and they didn't until the 7th round. Quipe and Deo are good picks. Just back to back don't make much sense. The wide receiver from Charleston, a good pick in the 7th round, good project guy. They've got a lot of young wide receivers too. We'll see how they do, but the left tackle could have definitely been addressed, especially with having Wentz, who gets hurt a lot.
And I just want to say real quick, is a lot of these teams going back to back, I think it had to do with just the uncertainty of the seasons itself. College tape was kind of hard to pick this year, so I think a lot of it just had to do with the kind of year that they had and the uncertainty. Yeah. So just doubling up is better than trying it out. All right, so we're moving on to the Jaguars. Clemson quarterback Trevor Lawrence went number 1. I think everybody in ESPN probably would have blown up if it was anybody else. I thought it was funny that when Urban Meyer was hired, everybody's like, "Oh, Justin Fields is gonna go Jacksonville." No, Trevor Lawrence was the presumed number 1 pick for 3 years. There was no way it was going to be anybody else but Trevor Lawrence. And then in the first round, this is where people complained that they took Travis Etienne. I had, in my personal mock draft, I had 2 running backs going in the first. I had Etienne and Najee Harris going first round. This is it's one of those things where it's like the Bengals and the Dolphins and the Eagles. It's just a comfort pick for the quarterback. Yes, they have Robinson, who was an undrafted free agent. Yes, they signed Carlos Hyde. But who in the NFL goes with just 1 running back? Maybe they could have gotten him at 33 if you feel he's going to help you, especially in the receiving game, which Travis Etienne will do. You do that. You help your quarterback as much as possible. And then at 33, they got the corner out of Georgia, who Green Bay should have taken if they were going to take a corner instead of Stokes. Tyson Campbell. Walker Little to 45 is good. Absolutely love the Andre Cisco pick at 65. I like the way Urban Meyer did this draft. I think him and the GM talked, and they got just, a lot of very good, talented players. If you're not on the Jag bandwagon now, jump on it, because in a few years, these guys are going to be uber talented. This is an A-grade draft for me. I love what Urban Meyer did in year 1.
Yeah, as I've alluded to, and it's become a theme here, I'm big on the taking teammates for comfort, and especially when you're investing everything you have in Lawrence being a success.
Yep.
Being the face of your franchise for 15 plus years. What better way to do it than to take somebody who was with him in the trenches at Clemson, his right-hand man, basically, in Etienne. It's not, like, yeah, I get it. It doesn't really make it, like, they didn't need it. When you're putting all your resources into Lawrence, and you want him to succeed, and you want him to be comfortable, it makes sense. And the Walker Little pick at 45 is the Raiders taking Leatherwood at, was it 17?
All of us had Walker Little in the first round. Literally all of us.
And Little goes 45? Okay. He should have been a first rounder.
Yep, absolutely.
Cisco, stud at 65. Urban Meyer had to take an Ohio State guy with the tight end, Luke Farrell. I mean, he's, it is what it is.
It's like a 6th rounder, though, so it's like, okay, if it doesn't pan out, whatever.
And there's not going to be a whole lot of pressure on him to succeed, but, of all the guys that he could have taken from Ohio State, I guess I get it. He must have some faith in Farrell to be somewhat talented. So yeah, this is the class, which, I mean, as it should be when you have first pick in the draft and you have 2 first-round picks, you have 2 second-round picks. This should be the class, and it is. It is the class. It's
they hit on,
however you want to grade it.
Which is weird because most college coaches don't have success in the NFL, but if this pans out the way we expect it to, Urban Meyer hit on almost every pick.
This is an A+. I think every pick is a great pick. You help him with his running back mate there at Clemson. Trevor Lawrence, obviously, everybody's been saying he's the Elway, Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck kind of guy. He hasn't lost a regular season game in college. I believe he lost 2 games in college.
The only games he ever lost were not games he lost, they were games his team lost, is the way I look at it.
Yes.
Yeah, he could have played a little better against Ohio State, but still, Justin Fields had an amazing game against him. And it was kind of a revenge game for Ohio State. I mean, Tyson Campbell should have been the guy that Green Bay picked. Walker Little, a first-round talent for sure. Andre Sisco, good safety. Jay Tefeli, good defensive tackle out of USC. Jordan Smith, a work in progress, but definitely has all the tools. 6'6", 265. Jalen Camp, wide receiver, 6'2", 220. Fast. He averages about 17 yards per catch. Out of Georgia Tech. And we all know how those Georgia Tech wide receivers go with Calvin and Demarius Thomas. So
it was just overall good draft for them. We're gonna move to the north, and we're gonna talk about the Baltimore Ravens, who I think had a pretty good draft. I'm not big on the Bateman pick as other people are. I think he's got talent, but I think there were just better guys available there. Penn State edge rusher Jason Owe, that's his middle name. His real name is Odafe, I believe. So Odafe Owe is a good pick at 31 from Kansas City. Ben Cleveland getting picked in Cleveland, going to the Ravens was kind of a funny little thing. Brandon Stevens was an interesting pick because he spent his first 3 years of his college career playing running back. Oklahoma State wide receiver Tylan Wallace at 131, absolute steal, as is Sean Wade at 160. I know he struggled this past year, but that's first round talent right there in the 5th round. Typical AFC North, pound the ball down. You get at 184, fullback Ben Mason, who could also play linebacker. So overall, great grade. I'm gonna give it A-, A range. I like what the Ravens did.
Yeah, I like their middle and late round picks more than their early picks. As during our mock, I'm not too high on Bateman and the Minnesota guys. I'm a little biased because I don't like PJ Fleck, but I just don't see Bateman being. He was not the best receiver at 27. I would not be surprised if Tylan Wallace has a better career than Bateman. I would not be surprised at all. Sean Wade, there was a lot of good. This year was rough on everybody. I think Wade is going to be a steal at 160. Harbaugh takes from a Harbaugh with Ben Mason, but he's a big old.
He's a beast.
He would have fit right in.
He's a freaking
beast.
In
the kneecap taking squad.
He's an absolute beast, and like I said, he can play linebacker too. So if they need like a third down or a goal line linebacker, stick him in there and boom.
Oh right, goal line. 4th and 1. Tell him to go find somebody and hit him.
Yep, and then if you work on offense too, 4th and 1, bow your head and get the yard. He's such a good value pick at 184. People don't realize that some teams that use fullbacks, they can be really, really valuable.
Yeah, you don't realize how hard it is to get 4th and 1 until you're in 4th and 1 and you don't get it. I'm gonna give it an A- just because I'm not too high on Bateman, but I really love their late picks.
Yeah, their late picks, they really did hit on those.
I'm gonna go with an A-. Bateman and Wallace, one of those guys is going to pan out. They're both really good route runners, really good hand catchers. Both aren't the most athletic and physical guys as wide receivers, but they both are fairly reliable. Jason Owe or Wu, I don't even know how to pronounce his name. He's 260 and runs a 4.3. The kid is just ridiculous. I don't even know if he's from Earth.
You can't teach that.
Yeah, I don't know if he's from Earth or where, but that's not humanly possible. Penn State must be doing something with their times. That can't be right, but he's going to be good. He's going to be really good. Ben Cleveland, if you ever look this man up, this is what a bear looks like.
It's just the Ravens, man. Big, bulky dudes.
Look up Ben Cleveland. This guy is just the biggest human being ever. He probably scares bears away. He's huge. And then Sean Wade, I think at Ohio State, playing with Okuda, he was more in the slot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what he'll probably do for the Ravens. And that's a little bit better fitted for him. And then Ben Mason's he's just a grinder. Whatever you need him to do, he'll do it. Hit a guy, block, tackle. He's just going to be a guy that is going to do everything. He's going to play every single special teams. He's going to play 4th down. He's going to be that goal line guy.
He'll be on the punt team blocking to protect the punter. You can pass him.
Yeah. When it's 4th and goal and you're trying to get a stop, you're going to put Ben Mason out there because he's going to do anything possible to get that stop. He's going to be that fullback that pushes the quarterback over for he's just going to be, he's a football player. You can put him on wherever. So, yeah, this is an A- draft. Even if Bateman doesn't pan out, they got Tylan Wallace, and then they just got a bunch of freakish dudes. So
Yeah. The Browns are next, and I like what they did, getting JOK at 52. I'm not going to say his real name because I can't. Anthony Schwartz is fast guys. I don't know, they're iffy in the league. James Hudson was a steal in the 4th round, and then getting Richard LeCounte the 3rd in the 5th round was also a steal. I like what the Browns did. It's an A- for me.
Yeah, this is the Browns. They're turning it around. Newsome, I was high on Newsome. Getting JOK at 52. I mean, I get it. It came out that there was a possible heart problem, but he got cleared, and it should be, for our report, totally fine. This is right towards the top of an absolute great class. I'm going to give it an A-.
Another A- here. A lot of late tough guys, and then just the first 2 picks with Newsome and JOK. I mean, those guys are going to really help their young defense out. And then Schwartz is just another guy that could be a good playmaker for them.
The Steelers had a typical draft. They drafted a bunch of big bodies. Najee Harris will help the run game, which was terrible last year. They needed to address O-line, and they did. Isaiah Loudermilk is kind of an underrated signing for them. Along with Quincy Roche, he should have went much earlier. And that punter they got, that's a big punter. I like what they did. It's a B+ draft for me.
I'm going to go A-. I think they had to take Najee at 24. It wasn't up for debate. Baby Gronk at 55. I mean, he's, stud. Loudermilk. I mean, the 2 H's in Isaiah, and his last name is Loudermilk. Like, this dude is going to be terrorizing quarterbacks, I think, for a little while.
Imagine being sacked. Imagine being sacked by Loudermilk. Like, come on, bro.
Like, you just got milked. Like Harvin. I think Harvin is going to end up being one of the top punters. Like, he was an absolute dude at Georgia Tech. Absolute rocket attached to his leg. Like, it's a very good class.
Yeah, it's a solid B+ here. Najee Harris is going to be good for the next 5-6 years. Kendrick Green was a good... I don't know too much about Dan Moore Jr., but they definitely needed to address the tackle position. They'll probably put him as a right tackle to start for that run game. Well, we'll see what the new additions on the O-line do, but solid B+, especially with Harris.
And yeah, for the Bengals, I'm not high on it like everybody else. I think Jamar Chase is okay at 5 to give the Joe Burrow connection, but your biggest need was your quarterback just tore his ACL, and your biggest need is to protect your quarterback. And so I get you signed a couple of guys in free agency. You have a generational type tackle on the board at 5 in Penei Sewell, and you don't take him and you pass him up for Jamar Chase, who, like running backs, wide receivers are a dime a dozen. You can find a good one in the 6th round. They reached on Jackson Carman. Joseph Osei was a good pick. And then their kicker was good too, but I just don't really like what they did. I think a lot of times that they realized they had needs, they just tried to quick fix the needs. And Jamar Chase Jamar Chase being picked ahead of some of those tackles just doesn't do it for me. This is like a B draft for me. I just don't like it.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a B-. I would like to personally thank the Bengals for not taking Sewell, because he's going to be starting left tackle, starting right tackle, however you want to put it. Probably right tackle, but anyways, he's going to be a stud for 15 plus years, and I'd like to thank the Bengals for that. The kicker from Florida, he's another dude. He's got a nuke. His last name's not great, but again, that's a different day. Chris Evans at 202 was a steal, but I got to give it a B- just because they should not have passed on Sewell, so B-.
B- as well. I'm not too high on Jackson Carman.
I'm not either. I think there was better tackles on the board at the time.
Yeah. To me, he was more of a 3rd round pick kind of guy. And then Jamar Chase is going to be good. The Bengals released those pictures of the New Jersey.
That scar did not look good.
Yeah, the scar just staring at you.
That was my point. He tore his ACL. You don't do anything to protect him.
Yeah, it's just
terrible.
Like, Jamar Chase is going to be good, but who's he going to be catching the ball from in 3 years?
Yeah.
It may or may not be Burrow.
We're going to go ahead and move on to our final division. AFC East, we're going to start in the Bills. At pick 30, they got Gregory Rousseau, who I think the Dolphins should have taken at 18. They got a lot of edge rushers, a lot of big bodies. Shout out to them for taking Maction and Tommy Doyle. But yeah, outside of their first couple picks, this Bills are one of those teams where they're so close to a Super Bowl, they don't need a whole lot. So these, again, like Tampa Bay, like Kansas City, were just kind of luxury picks. But I like what they did. I'm going to give it And watch out for Wisconsin corner Rashad Wild Goose.
Wow.
Wisconsin has some weird names. You got Loudermilk and Wild Goose, but watch out for him to make an impact early. Solid B- type draft. They kind of just luxuries.
I'm big on this one too. I'm going to give it an A. I think after seeing what the Bucs did in the Super Bowl, pounding the pass rush, they loaded up on an already good defense with Russo and Basham. Like they're going to be coming after dudes. And then their next 2 picks are big fellas on the other side with the tackles. And then Wild Goose, like Wisconsin guys generally they work out. Like it generally just works. So yeah, this is an A for sure.
Yeah, for me this is a B plus. Getting 2 pass rushers. They got, a lot of D-line and O-line, and that's always going to work out for you if you get your D-line and your O-line right. The only thing that doesn't make it an A for me is I would have loved to see them take a running back at some point in here. That was the only fault. Kalen Hill was available for a long time. I think they should have taken him in the 6th round. Other than that, that was a good draft for them.
The Dolphins, much like the Bengals, really needed to protect their franchise guy. If Tua ends up being the franchise guy, I think he will be. I think Tua underrated by a lot of folks. But they went Jalen Waddle, which was a bit surprised. You think maybe Devontae Smith would have been the pick there, but they go Jalen Waddle over Penei Sewell and all those other guys. Then they reached on Miami edge Jalen Phillips. The guy Miami out of Miami, but Jalen Phillips actually medically retired from football before coming back. So, you have to question that a little bit. Javon Holland was a nice pick. Liam Enchenberg, I don't know too much about him, but Notre Dame offensive tackle, can't really go too wrong with it. And I really like I wish they would have addressed the running back position earlier, but when they lost Williams, when Williams was traded up for, they kind of didn't know what to do. But I think Jared Dokes will be a solid replacement in the 7th. It's a good B plus draft, BB plus. It was solid for Miami, but I would have just went a little bit differently, addressing line and running back earlier.
Yeah, I'm giving it a B minus C plus. I get you probably listening to Tua. We're taking Waddle, but like the dude I get it. He came back from the ankle thing, but like things like ankles with receivers, they can make an appearance later. They can kind of nag on, and it can eventually be a constant problem later. And Phillips, I'm sorry, but if a dude medically retires and then comes back, I'm not taking him at 18.
Yeah,
I don't care how much talent the man may or may not have.
Yeah.
If the man medically retires and comes back, I'm not taking him at 18.
Yep.
And I think they waited, like you said, way too long for running back. At 244, B minus C plus.
The defensive end pick there, kind of questionable, especially because they had Barmore at 18.
Which we'll talk about.
That would have been a really good pick.
We'll talk about that shortly.
The defensive end class wasn't. There was a lot of guys, but none that were really.
Well, what I'm saying is you could have taken Russo, who Buffalo took at 30. You could have taken him at 18, and then forced Buffalo's hand to take a guy and take a chance on a guy like Phillips when they're already loaded at defensive end. It would have made more sense.
I do like Eichenberg, and Hunter Long's a solid tight end.
Very weak tight end class this year, though.
But Jalen Waddle is going to be good. He's got that almost Tyreek Hill-like speed. Not quite there, but he's going to be a real big playmaker, and they needed a big time playmaker to help out Tua.
They got Will Fuller.
We'll see how their offensive line goes. It wasn't great last year, but it wasn't the worst. We'll see how it does. Solid B.
We're moving on to Bill Belichick. I don't have much to say about this. This was typical Bill Belichick. Although he finally drafted a young quarterback, which he hasn't done in 20-something years because, he hasn't really needed to. He took Mac Jones, didn't have to trade up for him. There was rumors that San Francisco was taking him at 3, but Bill Belichick everybody was hoping Bill Belichick traded up for Justin Fields because that would have been scary, but he stayed pat, got Mac Jones, then traded up to take Barmore, who I believe the Lions are probably looking at if Patriots didn't trade up. Stole Ronnie Perkins at 96, and then typical, get a Michigan guy, get some random safety, and then they really should have addressed wide receiver, and they didn't till 242. But yeah, this is just a CC minus for me. Typical Bill Belichick draft.
Yeah, this is Bill being Bill. I trust Bill when he's taking the Alabama guys. I trust Bill because him and Saban are open about it. Saban will tell him if this guy is not worth taking. So while I'm not high on Jones, I think it'll work out. Barmore, absolute steal. The teammates of Oklahoma, boom. The Michigan guy, typical. It's Bill being Bill. It's a B plus, A minus.
I just wish he would have addressed the wide receiver. That's all. I think
I agree. That's why I won't go any higher than B plus.
He took a. He did sign.
Free agency.
He did sign Nelson Aguilar.
Aguilar.
But Aguilar had one good year.
Wide receiver in Las Vegas than Philly. I want to say this. It's an A-. I mean...
Excuse me?
Yes. Mac Jones is going to be, Tom Brady-like.
No.
I'm not saying he's going to
win.
No.
I'm not
Stop with the comparison, please. No, I'm tired of the Mac Jones-Tom Brady comparison. It's not going to happen.
Dude, it's a perfect marriage, all right? It's just going to work. But
yeah, this is the team that he wanted, but, bro, he is not even going to be close to as good as Tom Brady.
He's not even going to start this year. He probably won't even
start. Nor
start.
should he.
Maybe they'll get a wide receiver next year, and then Mac Jones will start. I mean, I love the running back from Oklahoma. I don't know if he'll get in because of Harris, how much. But this kid,
he's a big time. He's basically replacing Rex Burkhead. He's that big, bulky back that's going to be down in the goal line.
And the Patriots know how to use running backs.
Yeah,
they know how to do it.
I mean, even if Mac Jones has to hand the ball off 30 times, he's going to look good. I mean, Tom Brady did it. Tom Brady, he just needed to make the plays when he needed to make it. Barmore, Ronnie Perkins, McGrone, those guys are going to be starters. Mac Jones will be a starter if Cam Newton gets hurt. And then Stevenson's, I like him a lot.
All right, and then finally, we are going to end on this with the Jets. Zach Wilson, I'm sorry, was the wrong decision. Typical Jets move. Just like when they took Sam Darnold, I think it was the wrong move for them to take Sam Darnold. I definitely would have taken... to me, Justin Fields was the second best quarterback in this draft. That's who I would have taken. I think both San Francisco and New York made a giant mistake passing up on him. They traded up for Elijah Vera Tucker, which is okay, but the way the board played out, you didn't have to trade up. You could have stayed there and take other tackles or other offensive linemen. Elijah Moore in the second round was good. Nice steal. Michael Carter in the fourth round was pretty good since they didn't have a third, so him lasting that long wasn't bad. And then, they just addressed some defense, which now having a new head coach who's a defensive-minded guy taking defense after that, but they did a good job addressing their quarterback. It looks like they are all in on Zach Wilson right now. It is a solid solid B-.
I'm pretty happy with what they did aside from Zach Wilson. They had They had 7 picks from 107 to 207, and they acknowledged a bunch of depth. And then Vera Tucker and Moore at 14 and 34, I think are solid. But I Zach Wilson's going to blow up in their face just like Sam Darnold did.
Yep.
Although I don't think Sam Darnold was not completely his fault. A lot of it was Adam Gase and just the Jets organization. But and because of the fact that they took Zach Wilson at 2 and it's going to blow up in their face, I can't give any higher than a B. But if you take Zach Wilson out of that, I think everything else is dynamite.
And I think if they would have tried to build the team like they're doing around Zach Wilson, around Sam Darnold, I think Sam Darnold would still be the quarterback there today.
Yeah, I agree.
It's interesting. I wonder if they kept Sam Darnold and they took Kyle Pitts at 2.
Or
they could have ransacked somebody for second pick.
So it's interesting to see how they did things. It's a solid BB plus. You look at Elijah Vera Tucker. He's going to play left guard there with Becton. That's going to be a bulldozing unit right there. Michael Carter's a good running back. Elijah Moore, I'm really high on him. They took 5 defensive backs. That's a lot. I wonder if they could have got some pass rushers, because they had a horrible pass rush last year. I was just telling this, I don't know if Anthony you were listening, but Quinnen Williams will be out for 8 to 10 weeks. Who knows how he'll be by the time camp starts out, if he'll be healthy enough to go for the season. We'll see how that goes, but it's a BB plus.
All right, and that is our draft grades. I know this is going to be a bit longer video than what most of you are used to.